Love is Blind, Season 8, Episode 12. Let's get into it.
I'm chillin', baby, cold in the bitch. I was trippin' for a minute, now I'm over the shit. Life goes like goes, keep those in the pic. I stay on that slick shit like a rose on the leave it froze like a glitch, blowing smoke. Got my lips laid back like relaxing the throat of a pimp. 6'3", big feet, something known for my length. Gone strong, off shrimp, homegrown, oak cliff slide, but I won't slip.
Not your traditional opening hymn, and I'm not your traditional preacher, but make no mistake, this is about to be a church service. As is our custom, let's get the drama-free couples out the way first. COVID and Taylor have a date in the middle of an ice skating / hockey rink, and it was nice. I have nothing negative to say about this couple. Joey and Monica also go on a date, and I'm beginning to wonder if there is any credence to what Monica's jealous-ass sister said about him.
Our communication. You are very good at reciprocating that, and very well-spoken and very intelligent. You're an amazing person. Very caring person, empathetic person.
Everything he says about Monica is nice, kind, complimentary, but none of it romantic. Now, I don't know if that means anything because Joey's kind of an odd guy in general, so I can't really say I ever have a read on him, but I admittedly don't feel as confident in this couple as I did last week. Now, like last season, religion and politics have been heavily discussed in this season of Love is Blind. Now, so far, I've avoided hyper-focusing on the religious aspect of all of this, but being that today is Sunday, I think it's time. We're going to be reading from the Book of Common Sense. Now, before we go any deeper, I feel it would be appropriate for me to add context to this conversation. First, you need to understand the messenger, because it's always easier to comprehend how someone thinks when you know a little bit about them. I am a Christian, and I'm born of a Christian family. A family of actual pastors, men and women who currently lead and have led congregations over the last 50 plus years. Of all the pastors in my family, the one who I was closest to is my maternal grandmother, who passed away some years ago. Now, growing up in such close proximity to church leaders, you get a peek behind the curtain as to how the business of church actually works. Now, thankfully for me, these were and are men and women who were genuinely seeking to serve God and God's people. They see their duty as a calling, not a stage to perform on or a tool to be used for selfish gain or manipulation. I didn't grow up believing these people to be perfect. To the contrary, I witnessed their humanity. But the common thread that ties them all together is love. The people who modeled Christianity to me were loving people, givers, servant leaders with a heart to help whoever they could. As you would expect, growing up around certain influences, I was encouraged to learn the word for myself. I was challenged to read the word for myself and develop a personal relationship with God. A part of growing up is also having your beliefs challenged by life experiences and being exposed to other ways of thinking. It's very natural to question things as an adult that you blindly accepted as fact as a child. Ultimately, my conscious decision to remain a Christian is a result of the personal relationship with Christ that I've experienced. There was a time I thought I was going to go into ministry myself, but I've always been afraid of my own ability to live up to that title. I mean, let's be honest, it's one thing to do some wild shit as a YouTuber, quite another to let down an entire congregation. The journey to self-discovery is lifelong, and nobody knows where it ends up or where it ends. But as I sit before you today, I still do not feel worthy, responsible enough, or emotionally equipped to handle that role in the traditional sense. However, I believe that we all live a sermon, and that our personal experiences equipped us with the knowledge and wisdom that we need to help others. Now that you know a little bit about me, the next thing I need to do is clarify the spirit of this message. I am neither judge nor jury. I cannot condemn another human being, nor do I seek to. So please understand that everything I'm about to say reflects my personal beliefs. If anything I say today angers you, look inward, because a hit dog gonna holler.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible.
So I listened to a service today about sexual identity. How do you not know their stance?
The reason this conversation between Ben and Sarah is frivolous is because they both already know that square pegs don't fit in round holes. So what we have here is a silent standoff between the peg and the hole. One of you is going to have to be cut in order to fit. Either the peg needs its edges shaved to become round, or the hole needs to be expanded to become square. The only reason either of them is even considering compromise right now is because of the intense physical connection that they've already established. Now, the fact that this connection has already been explored exposes some level of hypocrisy, but that's not the rabbit hole I'm trying to go down right now. There was a time when you could separate politics from friendship. Two people from opposing sides could find common ground and still work together, right? Well, that was the pre-Trump era. And the mistake people are making today is in an attempt to feel normal, we're normalizing the radical. Now, here's where I start pissing people off. A Christian, as a noun, is defined as a person who has received Christian baptism or is a believer in Christianity. I believe there are essentially two types of Christians in this world today. And in this post-Trump era, how you vote clearly defines which type you are. I say this with my full chest, and I stand on it. MAGA Christians are Christians in baptism only. Again, I say this with my full chest, and I stand on it. MAGA Christians are Christians in baptism only. I thought you said you weren't judging anybody. I'm not. I'm not dooming them. I'm simply placing them in the proper category because a believer in Christianity cannot be a part of MAGA. Again, I'm on my Umar today because I need y'all to understand that I believe this with every fiber of my being. A believer in Christianity cannot be a part of MAGA. Words are important here. That's why I have a definition of it. I'm not saying that MAGA Christians are not believers. I'm saying that MAGA Christians are not believers in Christianity. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does, because Christianity is defined as a monotheistic religion based on the teachings of Jesus Christ, who, by the way, was a refugee at birth and murdered at the age of 33 by the religious leaders and political leaders of the time. He was brutally murdered. For what? Well, honestly, for teaching love, for healing and helping people on the Sabbath, and calling out the hypocrisy of the church. So, being that Christianity is defined as a monotheistic religion based on the teachings of Jesus Christ, one would conclude that in order to be a believer, you have to believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. So the natural follow-up to that is, well, what did Jesus teach? How anybody can say they believe this and then go vote for Donald Trump is beyond me. Now, if you pay attention, the brand of Christianity that MAGA represents is very Old Testament. It almost feels like they want to operate as if Jesus never came. See, the Old Testament is where the law of God is established. It's where we learn what is required to qualify to enter God's presence. It represents a time where the relationship between God and humanity had to be managed by a designated few. I won't go too deep, but only the high priest could enter the Holy of Holies. In the New Testament, Jesus conquers sin and grants us all immediate access to God through the Holy Spirit. Now, before anybody accuses me of calling the Old Testament irrelevant, here's what Jesus had to say about the Old Testament, also referred to as the law. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Basically, humanity is so morally bankrupt that it's impossible for us to meet God's standard. Therefore, God decided to enter the human experience himself and become the blood sacrifice required to grant all of us access. So now, instead of living under the impossible standard of law and perfection, we live under grace. And grace says that regardless of who you are or what you do, who you love, God loves you so much that he was willing to endure torture and death in order to restore relationship with you. If you pay attention to it, Jesus only really had smoke for those who claim to represent God, but led with hate, judgment, and violence. Who does that sound like? To MAGA Christians, Jesus is a historically and geographically inaccurate symbol, a ridiculous white man with long flowing hair who largely serves to promote the idea of white supremacy and the subjugation of people of color. To believers, Jesus is unconditional love, kindness, grace, acceptance, forgiveness, and fellowship. It's not the same faith. Y'all want to operate as if Jesus never came, essentially adopting the same mentality of the people who plotted against him. You want to hang this blasphemous image all over the world so that people of color can associate whiteness with deity. If you're MAGA and are offended by anything I said, feel free to have your say in the comment section. If you're other or non-religious and just want me to get back to the foolery, congratulations, that was a benediction. As a football fan, this is cool as shit. And in true Love is Blind fashion, while the men get to do something cool and exciting, the women get to do something stupid.
Theme is elderly. You ever seen it like this? Don't bust the hips. I'm feeling good today, ladies. Nothing about this process is untraditional.
Ladies, if you go on this show, just tell your friends to go ahead and plan the bachelorette party for you off camera because Chris Colleen is going to play in your face every single time. Devin Trump finally signs a prenup, and the more I see this guy, the weirder he gets. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he breastfed till like 12 years old. And maybe sometimes perhaps at the teat of the family pig because he couldn't tell the difference.
If yes, say I will.
All right, so she did a bunch of hemming and hawing with her people about whether or not Ben is the right guy for her. I don't care too much about the cliffhanger because I'm not invested in this couple anyway. But did y'all hear that the 49ers traded Deebo Samuel to Washington for a 5th round pick? I ain't think we'd get much considering he was coming off of a pretty rough year, so I'm cool with it. The cap relief should help us get active in free agency though.
I came empty-handed, but I'm leaving with 3. Plus I made about a G, cause I made them tip me.